Donald Trump is showing clear signs of mental and physical decline. His focus, energy, and clarity appear to be slipping, with repeated questions, slower movements, and less clear speech becoming more noticeable. This raises concerns about his stability and decision-making, and a recent incident where he was outmaneuvered and exposed may be the most alarming yet. We'll explain what happened, why it matters, and why it set off Carolyn Leavitt. But first, please, like this video and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you these updates.
Saying now that people are going to die because of a newly announced decision by Donald Trump in the second Trump presidential administration. Dr. Jerome Adams is not the only veteran of the first Trump term who is directly, urgently making this case. A former top biodefense official from Trump's first term tells NPR this decision, quote, endangers the national security of the United States. Another health official from Trump's first term tells NPR the new policy is, quote, irresponsible, saying, quote, we're taking our country from 2025 back to 1940. And we all know that's a recipe for disaster and failure. The thing that has all these public health officials freaking out, this irresponsible recipe for disaster and failure, is Trump's inexplicable decision to cancel $500 million in contracts related to mRNA technology. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced last week he's canceling funding for the development of mRNA vaccines, including ones against respiratory illnesses like COVID and the flu. In the COVID pandemic, we lost more than 1 million American lives. We would have lost millions, multiple millions more, had it not been for the mRNA vaccines that were developed during Trump's first term. Now, apparently, though, Trump is calling it all off, or at least RFK Jr. is. Trump recently appeared perplexed by the question when he was asked by reporters about this decision to kill off mRNA vaccines. He honestly did not seem to understand what the question meant or what his administration's new policy was. But doctors and scientists and experts in public health of all points on the ideological spectrum are not just criticizing this decision, they are warning that Americans are going to die because of it. Michael Osterholm is an esteemed epidemiologist who has served in senior roles at the CDC. He's been an advisor to both Republican and Democratic administrations. When the AP recently asked Dr. Osterholm about Trump's health secretary cutting off funding for mRNA vaccines, Dr. Osterholm was very blunt. He said, quote, I don't think I've seen a more dangerous decision in public health in my 50 years in the business. Joining us now is Michael Osterholm. He is director for the University of Minnesota Center for Infectious Disease Research. Dr. Osterholm, I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is this such a dangerous decision?
Well, the vaccine research that we desperately need to have is research that would actually make us much better prepared for the next influenza pandemic, which is going to happen, and it could be much worse than COVID. Right now in the world, if we had a pandemic, we could only make about enough vaccine for not quite 1/4 of the population of the world in the first 18 months. The approach we use is embryonated chicken eggs, which are just very slow. It would take years to get all the people vaccinated. In the meanwhile, mRNA technology, if we continue to research and apply it, we could likely have enough vaccine for the world in the first 8 to 10 months.
One of the most overlooked failures of Donald Trump's presidency is how the so-called "Make America Healthy Again" idea never delivered on its promises. Many who supported him, after being influenced by RFK Jr., weren't the usual political base. They were people looking for real health solutions, not division. They wanted better health care for their families, but instead were misled by empty promises in a space already full of misinformation. Our healthcare system is broken, and big corporations profit while everyday people suffer. And Trump, along with RFK Jr., took advantage of that hope. Instead of improving the system, they left these supporters behind. And now, as Trump's own cognitive and physical health appears to decline, his actions continue to threaten the well-being of the country. Something on display during his recent weak and troubling comments about Russia.
And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, capital in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly.
This is not a man who can even remember that Alaska is in the United States. So it's either that Trump can't remember that Alaska is in the United States, or he cares so little and understands so little and remembers so little about a meeting with Vladimir Putin he is hosting that he doesn't know where it is. That's what's going on here. Yet, all of those around him, all of those in MAGA hail Donald Trump as the deal-maker chief. He's thinking so deeply about peace, about making a peace deal. That's why Carolyn Leavitt's posting BS like this. Carolyn Leavitt posted an article from a right-wing outlet and wrote Trump the peace president. Donald Trump failed to deliver the peace deal he once promised, and now he's suggesting Ukraine should give up territory for peace with Russia. That's hardly the mark of a true president for peace. In reality, this is one of the weakest leaders we've ever seen. Weakness disguised as strength. His tough guy image is nothing more than a cover for actions that push an authoritarian agenda. Just look at what's happening in Washington right now, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Rachel Maddow summed it up perfectly.
Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's not about defending the federal government from threats, right? Maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's not about any other thing he might voice. Maybe it's what you can see with your own two eyes. Maybe it's that he really enjoys using U.S. military force against American civilians on American soil and wants any excuse to do it anywhere he can. Watch what they do, not what they say. Because, given what else he's done on the issue of crime, does it make sense that him sending in the troops for a military takeover of Washington, D.C. is about crime? That's what he said. But what do you think, based on what he's done? Because meanwhile, while he's talking about crime, he has sent in the National Guard and active duty U.S. Marines to Los Angeles as well, right? Supposedly to save that city from protests against him. That deployment was so inexplicable and so palpably disconnected from its purported justifications that the LA Times reported on a spike in calls to the GI rights hotline, with military personnel telling that hotline they didn't want to be deployed to point guns at citizens. Military personnel telling that hotline they, quote, didn't want to be on the side of being armed occupiers in their own country. The New York Times reported the troops recoiling from Trump's use of them in Los Angeles. In more pungent terms, quote, at least one company commander and one battalion commander who objected to the mission were reassigned to work unrelated to the mobilization. Some troops became so disgruntled that there were several reports of soldiers defecating in Humvees and in the showers at the Southern California base where the troops are stationed, prompting tightened bathroom security. Tightened bathroom security. Despite that military triumph in Los Angeles, we've now got Trump using military bases now all over the country to hold massive new immigrant prison camps, which he is planning on military bases at Fort Bliss in Texas and Camp Atterbury in Indiana and Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey. Trump has also expanded huge swaths of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona into what he's calling, quote, military zones, in which he's legally expanded the boundaries of local military bases into huge hundreds of miles long territories, where he's now given U.S. active duty troops the instruction and authority to stop and search and arrest Americans on domestic U.S. soil. Watch what they do, not what they say. He wants U.S. military force deployed on U.S. soil facing inward. as a show of force to the American people about what he and the government can do to you. People in D.C. are already protesting against it. This was just today. Just as people in Los Angeles protested against it when Trump tried it there as well. This weekend, people protested in Los Angeles against ongoing immigration raids and arrests there. Those protests have not stopped in Los Angeles, with or without the National Guard and the Marines there to try to scare everyone into not protesting. People protested in Columbus, Ohio this weekend as well. Hands along High Street, they called it. Protest in Columbus, Ohio, where protesters lined the streets for 8 solid miles, protesting against what Trump is doing. This woman in Florida is 104 years old. She has been protesting every week, every Thursday with her neighbors and friends. Her sign in this picture says here, "Girls just want to have fun. Ding for scientific research." She's 104. She'll be 105 years old this week. And she is protesting against the Trump administration 1 out of her every 7 days. What are you doing with your life, you spring chicken? When Donald Trump sent troops to Los Angeles this summer on the absurd pretext that some kind of war was on, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and other LA officials didn't just protest against it and try to stop it. They also warned the country that, yeah, he's doing this to us first, but it's going to be you next. They were clear-eyed about that. They were right. And we, clearly, are now in the part of the attempted authoritarian takeover where our authoritarian leader just starts trying to turn our own military to face us, the people of this country. And the questions that are equally important in response to that right now are, number one, what will the troops do about that? And number two, what will we do?
Donald Trump has a pattern. Create the idea of a crisis, then claim he's the one to solve it. In reality, it's more show than substance. Yesterday in D.C., peaceful protests took place without major conflict, unlike in L.A. where he sent in force to escalate tensions. Why the difference? Likely because in D.C., Trump wants to declare victory, to say he fixed a problem that didn't need fixing. Crime there is already down, and his budget cuts actually make conditions worse, not better. But framing it as a solved crisis gives him the excuse to push for similar crackdowns in cities like New York, Baltimore, Philly, Milwaukee, Chicago, and LA. It's a dangerous pretext for expanding control, and exactly the kind of move we need to keep calling out. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.